Welcome to the Leader to Leader podcast. I'm your host, Susan Spears. Our guest today is Dr. Janet Gullickson, and what a pleasure that is. She is the recently retired president of Germanna Community College here in the Fredericksburg, Virginia region. Janet, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Susan. It's very nice to be here. I had to get up early, though.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's awesome. She has a big Starbucks here with her. And knowing her like I do, so I usually call you Jan. Is that okay for our interview?
Absolutely.
Okay. And she has been on the program before, so if you listen to this and you want to dive back into when she was deep in the career mode, just dive back through our list and you'll see it, and go listen to that one too, because it's a lot of good nuggets in there. Today we're coming together because I'm here with an actual local legend in not only the Fredericksburg region, but everywhere she's worked. She's left an imprint and made a difference, and a huge difference in her community. I've got a long bio here that explains all of that, but what I'm going to do is ask her to share facets of her leadership journey with you, and then we're going to bounce back and forth on questions there. And I'm really excited. I told Jan about sitting down with her right now because it's so fresh. The retirement is literally just barely in the headlights, right? It's right there. Yes, and she's still we're going to be in a meeting right after this for our community. So she's not retired from the community. She just retired from that formal position. So let's talk about that journey.
Well, thank you, Susan. The first thing I have to say is you could probably teach more than I could on leadership, given your experience with Leadership Fredericksburg.
Thank you.
And all the challenges and opportunities you've navigated, and I just admire you a ton.
Thank you.
So the first thing I have to say is the leadership journey, while it didn't really involve wrong turns, it did involve a fair amount of mistakes on my part.
Okay.
A fair amount of, whoa, did I just do that? Or, wow, that turned out even though I thought it was a disaster. And so I have to kind of give that disclosure right away.
Sure.
That if you are a leader, my guess is you've had more mistakes in your life, or you've made more mistakes than you have had successes. On the other hand, true leaders know how to brush themselves off, pick themselves up, and move on. And that's, I think, what I've learned in my journey. So many years ago, like before you were born, Susan, I wrote a paper, I think it was in 5th grade, of what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said governor.
Okay.
Not pretentious at all.
Well, there's still time to do that.
No. That's not a very healthy job right now for anybody, as
right.
much as I like our current governor in Virginia. But so I've always wanted to be a leader of some sort. And I don't know if it means that I just wanted to be bossy, which I am as a leader, or if I just really didn't want to be contained by many rules, which leaders have too. So there's all these kind of reasons behind it. But mostly, and I know that you talk about this a lot with other leaders in the communities, mostly I'm pretty purpose-driven and was raised to believe that when you are given a lot, as both you and I were in many ways, the expectations are that we give back.
Yes.
That's the stewardship notion, and it was alive and well in my family, and I know in yours too. So I started out with a bachelor's degree in psych and soc. Yes, psych majors eventually can get employed. I just want to assure everybody. And then went to my first job, and my first job ended because they closed the agency down, much as what change in president. The president didn't want to have this government agency, so they shut it down. So I went back to graduate school and have a degree in rural sociology and planning. And then went out to work, and I worked for quite some time in colleges. I worked in domestic violence prevention, rape crisis, things that young people do with such fervor and compassion that sometimes it's a difficult lift for somebody like me who really hadn't grown up in that kind of experience to recognize just how horrific people can be treated, men and women and children. And so that was a good experience for me because it was like the scales fell from my eyes. And then I went back to graduate school, as I said, in sociology, and I worked in student financial aid. I worked in with single parents. I did a lot of work because my children's father traveled with his job, and so we moved with him. Eventually, we settled, and I have a doctorate in higher ed policy and administration and leadership. Throughout those early experiences, many, many people, just like today, have helped me. And I will say most of them were men. And part of that was that there weren't many women in those positions. But part of that is that I believe men are great mentors for women, and women are, of course, good mentors for women. But because they understand and they have seen women struggle, maybe their wives, maybe their sisters, maybe their mother, maybe their children. And so they're great mentors, and I really learned a lot in my early career. I've been a president a couple times. We came to Virginia because our daughter lives here with our grandchildren and her husband. And honestly, I have never loved and felt more at home than I have in where I am right now. There's something about the Fredericksburg region, and I'm sure you've seen this, that is so accepting. Yes, there are lots of things that are bad and ugly in every community, and Fredericksburg has them too. But I think there's such an intentional devotion to the community, and by the community, I mean the whole region, not just
Right.
Fredericksburg City. And that intentional commitment raises everybody's expectations, not just for each other, but for themselves too. It also here, I think, has deep cultural roots. And it's very interesting for me as a sociologist by training to have the opportunity just to explore the historical and cultural wealth of this region. And so I love it here. I was at Germanna for 8 years. I love that college more than anything. Someone has said to me, "You bleed Germanna." But it's a good time to walk into a next journey too. So that's kind of where I am.
Wow, there's so much there. And I know that it was 8 years, and it's so hard to believe. It feels like you packed in 25 years into those 8 years and all of the things that you did. Just transformational, really. And when you think about that, when I say that to you, what's the top one or two things that come to mind for you that you're most proud of?
First, nothing I did alone.
Of course.
Really,
yes.
Germanna was a good organization when I came, and hopefully I left it in a good place
Yes.
too. I think I'm a firm believer in partnerships, and that may be one of the most consequential cultural and community contributions that Germanna has made. And I actually did my doctoral research on partnerships, what makes a successful partnership and what doesn't. And it comes down to about three things, honestly, 3 or 4 things. One is that, yes, this is a 180-page dissertation laid out for you in 3 sentences. No.
I'm nailing it here. You see me taking notes?
Well, partnerships work very well if you all agree on the problem. That's super important. For example, let's say that we're worried about housing, and
Yes.
we've talked a lot about that in this community, and we continue to worry about it. So someone might say, we don't have enough housing because builders only build high-end homes. Or they might say, we don't have enough housing in multifamily units. Or we don't have enough housing because people don't have good enough credit. There are lots of attributes that we could name. But the real problem is not to make sure people have good credit. The real problem is, do we have sufficient housing stock? And so when you start there as the definition of the problem, we don't have sufficient housing stock at all price ranges, Then you begin to craft solutions around that rather than saying, well, we've got to do financial literacy so people can improve their credit rating. No, it's about building more housing stock. Other things will come from that. So the problem is lack of housing stock. And then you come together and you have to agree on what resources you can contribute. So, for example, housing stock, I'll use Germanna as an example. Germanna could say, okay, we're going to really focus on carpentry skills in building apartments. And we're going to partner with some of the big apartment owners, and we're going to really focus on that so we can teach more people to be carpenters in concentration or in collaboration with the apartment owners. You might come, Susan, with your chamber connections and say, we could pool our realtors and really say, some realtors are better in this market. Some realtors are better in this market. Some realtors. So let's make sure we have those people lined up. So we share resources. The third thing, and this is the most difficult, I think, sometimes, is to agree on this solution.
Right.
Have you ever noticed in a meeting, people are talking, and within 5 minutes, somebody says, I think we should. And sometimes I'm the worst one at that, to be honest. I think we should do this. And then it just takes off. But you really do have to spend as much time defining the problem and identifying the solution as anything else. Because if you don't, you often don't accomplish what you need to. So agreed upon shared resources, agreed upon problem, agreed upon solution. The last one is the one that I think sometimes we forget the most, which is documentation. I'm talking to you people out there that go to meetings all the time. You're going, oh my gosh, we talked about this 3 years ago. Oh no, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So it's really important to have somebody who, both a facilitator of the group as well as a documentarian, who says, no, we made that decision in March. It's July. We're moving on. Because without that kind of motivation and demonstration of action, you always just get on that spinning wheel like the squirrels chasing after whatever squirrels chase after. And so I have always approached a partnership like that. Shared solution, shared understanding the problem, what resources do we have, and then how do we document so that we move forward. And of course, we have to celebrate that. But I was raised in a Norwegian Lutheran family, and we smiled once a year. So it's
you smiled once a year. So you're like, I'm forcing the celebration.
Really?
I know everybody else needs this.
Okay, absolutely true. It's true. So those are kind of, that might be something that energy that I might have brought to the community, and actually knowledge based on my experiences. The second thing, and this one is probably personally most fine to me, and that is we have moved, at least Germanna and hopefully others in the community, to talk more about diversity and equity. And
certainly.
And those are very important regardless of the political climate, because as I've said before, in most all of our school districts in this region, except for King George, we are minority majority. And I don't know how many people understand that the students that are coming towards them as employees in the future are going to be at least half Black and brown and maybe more. And so at Germanna, we went from about 17% minority to about half right now. So we're half Black and brown and half white.
In 8 years.
Yes, we did. And that was partially through partnerships and partially through a lot of work that our faculty and our staff did.
So you were seeking that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For opportunities.
For opportunity as well as...
For the students.
Yes.
I want to make sure I said that right.
Yeah. Well, and I think I have both sides of my brain, right?
Certainly.
There's a part that really cares and wants to be sure everyone has equal access and equal opportunity. But there's another part, because when I came, people were crying out for workers, cybersecurity, construction,
yes,
healthcare, even auto techs, transfer majors into education. I mean, crying out for a workforce. But if we can't recruit Black and brown people, who are the majority in most of our school divisions, to come to college and either to get a skill or a trade or to get a certificate or to transfer, we are only going to make that workforce need worse. Only. So I sat around and I thought about this. I said, oh my gosh, we got to do something to make sure that we can fill the jobs that the workforce needs. And we can't do it if we continue to focus just on certain students and to the exclusion of others. So it's both a heart thing and a head thing.
That makes sense. For our listeners that may not know, let's say the demographics of this area, the folks that we're attracting and those changes over the 8-year or so period, is that public schools that you're thinking have that minority majority?
Yes.
Or is it also because there's a lot of private schools around here too?
You know, I'm not as familiar with them, and I think that would not necessarily be the case.
May
for
have
them.
a different balance there.
Right. Absolutely.
But some of them may choose the community college route, but probably not as much on the private schools. And then that's a shame too, because that pathway that you can take by going to Germanna for 2 years and then to some of the UVA, whatever.
Right.
Maybe tell our listeners a little bit about that, because I don't know. You'll know. I don't know. Is that just Virginia, or is that something that's practiced around the country?
It's practiced around the country. I will be honest with you. In many other states, it's much easier than Virginia.
Okay.
For many reasons, it's harder here just to make those pathways clear, because it isn't a statewide necessarily pathway that goes all the way to transferring in as a junior, so that they're tricky here. On the other hand, it's pretty much universal across our country that we have community colleges, and many people think that's the jewel of the American education system. Mm-hmm. What I will say, to your point earlier about who's now coming to community colleges, yes, we're getting more and more people of color, and that the plain reason for that is that we have more and more people of color in our K-12 area. Mm-hmm. But we're also getting really wise consumers. And these are the parents who could maybe easily send their children wherever they want to go. But they understand that by going to the community college, and we have good transfer relationships, and keeping their child at home, maybe they're not mature enough, maybe they already went to JMU and bombed because they found the parties, and
that happens.
Yeah, it happens more than you think. And so we can get a student through Germanna for a little more than $10,000 total the first 2 years of a higher ed. And if a student lives at home, it's even more savings for that student. So then they can go to VCU or UVA or JMU and really continue without debt. And the debt thing is the kind of the albatross around so many people's necks. The other thing that I say to parents whose children want to be doctors or lawyers or something in biochemists, something in professional areas, is I will say, why don't you save the money you would have spent at VCU for the first 2 years so that you have it for graduate school for that student? Because graduate school is extremely expensive. And if you know your student's going there, get your basic general education opportunities at Germanna and then transfer on. So there's a whole variety of populations that we serve with that. But it's very interesting how many financial planners I talk to who say, oh yeah, I tell all my clients to send their kid to community college first.
Yeah, that seems like a whole critical conversation for families to be having.
Well, and that's the interesting part. So let's say that I'm a grandma and my granddaughter got into VCU. She's the first in our whole family to be able to go to VCU. And so grandma wants her to go and her community wants her to go. But the only way the student can go is to borrow a lot of money. And you have just got to stop and pause. To your point, I love the way you said that the families need to sit down and have a very honest conversation about what kind of financial planning they want to do for their child and for themselves. Plus, there's some changes federally coming out in financial aid that will really limit the amount of money that students can borrow or that parents can borrow. So for now, I would surely send my child to community college. And I have 3 children, and all of them have attended. 2 of them are graduates of community colleges, and one took some summer courses.
So interesting, and so much to learn. And it's such an ever-evolving situation as I'm listening to this. Now, I know I'm a few years out from when I went to VCU. But
probably, what, 5?
Right. I'm an 80s girl. My father, the day I was born, he loves to tell these stories. He opened a savings account for me to go to college. Same thing for my brother. What did he put in? $20 a week in the late 60s, 50? I have no idea. All I know is when I did go in the fall of 1983, mine was paid for. And I was rotten and didn't realize what that meant until the first ad drop. And I went over to ad drop, a couple months in with all my friends who were from Northern Virginia. Just turned out that was who I hung out with. And when we were changing our classes and then when we were walking out, you have to check out. They were all in this really long line. And I was in one that kind of like the men at a concert. There's nobody in line at the bathroom. That's where I was. And I just walked through and they stamped it. And then I had to wait for my friends. And I the little spoiled 18 or so year old was puzzled by this and realized that mine was paid for at that time. And I don't know that that's one of my points. I don't know that families can do that today the way, because it's so expensive. It must be just so difficult. But they all had financial aid of some sort, and we were all from the same backgrounds,
right.
Upper or middle class, just professional parents, whatever. But in their cases, it was that. And so I don't know that my dad saved it or my mother saved. She probably saved it. She saved everything. But I wrote him a letter and told him how appreciative I was. Yeah. And that was one of those, what you call the aha moments. Yeah. It's sad that it took that moment for me to recognize, how incredible the gift was from my parents. Because, yes, it was my dad putting it in there, but it is my parents as a unit, both in on that. And how fortunate, and then one of the other lessons he taught me, and these are things that I look back on, and as we look at the differences in generations in today's world, as I went through those years at VCU, each year he, I had to start working, and he would back off on different bills until as I was graduating. At that point, the only thing left that my parents were paying for, I think, was maybe my base rent and then just the classes. But everything else at that point, eating, lights, phone, whatever. And no, that wasn't a phone you carried around. It was your portion of the phone that we all fought over.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We had a phone, I shouldn't tell you, but I will. We had a phone that was like the Rolling Stones' lips. But anyway,
Susan.
But I think about the simplicity of much of that, and it makes me sad for what I see and how difficult the hurdles are today. And even as I say that, my father did the savings plan for his grandchildren and did pay and put my niece at least through the University of Mary Washington. So the fact that we'd even be talking about it, though, because it's such a barrier to success for people.
Yep. It really is. And I'm with you. We had 5 children in my family, and my dad and mom paid for all of us to go to college.
Amazing.
I thought that was how it worked, honestly. To your point, when you saw that long line, what is that about? And so it wasn't the case for most. And what I think now, too, is many families just can't even think past tomorrow.
Right.
And so the idea that they could pay for their children's education is just not realistic. The other thing is there are a few families who have this notion, and I never have understood this, that at age 18 you're out of the house.
Oh, right.
I don't care if we have means. You're going to do everything on your own. And honestly, I don't think that's if you can afford it, you should pay or help your kid. The other thing that's happening too is, and that higher ed is to blame somewhat. We, not so much in community colleges, trust me, but in other settings, we spend a lot of time on beautiful or a lot of money on beautiful dormitories and athletic fields, et cetera. And I'm not opposed to those. But if you think that a student might graduate with a $100,000 debt and thinking about being a teacher, because you're charging more, so they have amenities, there's something unreasonable about that, and almost just think about it. Just think about what's happening. But this the student loan debt is really an albatross around many people's necks. And if you can get your kid through at least 2 years without debt, then you have taken $30,000 of indebtedness, $40,000 off their back.
Incredible. So this passion that you have, this knowledge, passion, all of it, it doesn't end because that date came and you retired formally. I know you're going to continue to contribute and be involved in so many ways in the community. What does it feel like right now as you're on this cusp of new life? I know you just came back from a great vacation, well deserved. But it's got to be, it's like you think of life in these phases. So you're entering or sections or times. Like how do you keep it all straight, or what's your focus right now?
Yeah, I think
with all of that,
it's difficult for me to understand it. I will have to work just to keep my purpose fed, if you would, my passion fed, and not to kill my husband or vice versa. I read something the other day that said, what happens when you're on a train that's going 100 miles an hour and you run out of track? And that's kind of how I feel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like hard stop, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And we in higher ed really hard stop it because we don't have a passion or a history of transition. You're done, you move. You're done, you move. So it's difficult. The other thing I'm trying to figure out is what's my calling. And I believe strongly in the word or the idea of vocation and avocation.
Yeah.
What you're called to do. And I just have to have a discernment period. I don't know what that is. I know what it isn't. For example, it's probably not coaching Little League, but
I'm so surprised to hear you say that.
Although I do like baseball, but that's a discernment period that I have to go through, and then I have all those closets at home that need to be cleaned out. That I thought, you know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have all that junk. So I got to get rid of that junk. So there are things I can do, but after I get done with that, the day after, I'm really hoping that I'm able to discern and be called to something with purpose. But it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult when I threw away all my business cards, for example. Or the little things like my name tags. What am I going to do with my name tags? Just dumb little things like that. Or like this morning even, I looked at my phone and said, okay, has Zach was a great assistant for me.
Yeah.
Has Zach texted me? Is there something going on that I didn't do?
Such a habit.
It is such a habit. And now I got back on Facebook so I could keep up with people. And I am a big reader of not necessarily of fiction or books. I have some eye issues, but I read all the time articles and news and I listen to podcasts like yours.
Yeah.
but there is, and there are some groups for newly retired CEOs. Women.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, that's part of the journey too, right?
Is where does that? Yeah, exactly. When you said articles, it just a train of thought. Oh man, I love a magazine.
Oh yes, I do too. I do too.
And such a another simple pleasure that to me has been like a luxury moment in my life is, which I can tell you more about, but with social media and the internet and all, it just killed it, you know, in large part.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you do some of that reading digitally, but maybe you still get some hard copies here and there.
I get some like Southern Living and
Beautiful.
some of those. Yeah, some of those. I
It's
wish
just
I could
great,
live in
isn't
there.
it?
Yeah, it is. You go, wow, how do you do the pillows like that? Just basic stuff. So, you can wrap things. So my husband does all of our gift wrapping because I'm horrible at it. I am horrible.
We have learned something new.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
Cannot
yes.
gift wrap.
No.
Loves a gift bag. Give her
Right.
a tissue.
Oh, yes. Oh, I can do that like
That
crazy.
works.
I had to watch a YouTube video, but I now know how to fluff the tissue.
So
truly.
cute.
But so it's interesting to think about, like, if I look at those magazines, I actually would have time to do some of that. I don't have the skill, though.
Yeah.
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 But I do love a good magazine. I remember when my children were
Yes.
younger, the perfect Sunday for me was to be able to read a Time magazine from cover to cover. That was the perfect summer.
So, and I remember like in college, in particular, the biggest luxury for me. So here's a little difference in us. It might have been Vogue. Harper's Bazaar, Cosmo. I'm going to admit it. We used to go, I'm a 1980s Cosmo girl. Those, Rolling Stone back then, occasional Time or Newsweek when it had something.
When there was nothing else left.
Or an artist on the cover because, that was the thing. But I remember it just being, those magazines were glorious. And there were articles. I read them. I did. But I just,
The pictures.
I could look at like a YSL ad or a Chanel ad for, 10 minutes. I could, it just like someone would a painting, at the Smithsonian or wherever.
Interesting.
I can look at it. I look at it that way. So I'm very drawn to so many things. And so I guess one of my points is I just ordered online a 1986 September Vogue issue. It's one of those big fat ones.
Oh, yes.
It came to the house.
Oh, wow.
And I've put it, I haven't even looked at it yet. I set it aside for a day where I'm going to just go and sit down with it, like to your point.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. What does that mean? It meant, I think I still have some need for that. To me, it's escapism and all of that because we deal with heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Important stuff. Decision making and solutions and negotiations and partnerships and all day. So let's spend some time looking that somebody had to spend. That's a vocation, creating that beauty.
Absolutely.
But I want to revel in it.
Well, I think the other thing, and I don't mean to be critical of the media because it would be very difficult to be in the media right now, but is we do everything in 3 or 4 bullets, and I do like bullets. I do like, don't tell me a paragraph. If you can do it in 2 words, I'm happier. But and so a lot of the media experiences we have right now or exposures are abbreviated, right? You don't get to luxuriate in an ad that has who would it have been? Murphy Brown character.
Candace Bergen.
Yes, in the ad with the Chanel bottle. You don't get to think about who created that. How many photos did they take? How many? I mean, it's that kind of thing, the multidimensional nature of print media that really gets you excited. So I understand completely.
Mm-hmm. And the way you received news back then is so different than today. So you began your career. Wow, the world looked different.
Oh yeah. Although the world is quite different, goes much quicker. Young people, while they haven't changed much, they have had experiences that are way beyond what you and I had.
Absolutely.
The tragedies of their lives, their parents lost their jobs, maybe during the Great Recession. They saw the first black president elected. They lived through COVID. I mean, there's so many things that happened to the millennials and Gen Z people that did not happen to you and me.
I think it's the access to that information. When I think about it, I feel that I would be a whole different person than coming through in the 70s and 80s as a child into a young adult, because I didn't have a device that showed me death across the world,
Right?
school shootings, just so many things that have become real fears. And so you can kind of see, like, some people want to say there's a weakness or so much, weak mind or something, or too much fear, helicopter parents, just generalizations. Right. But you can understand it, because if I'd had that access, I think I would be terrified of the world.
I don't think you would be. And
no?
Let me say why.
Okay, help me with that. This is a therapy session now.
Because you had people in your lives who were leaders. Now,
that's true.
They might have been the person next door. They might have been your Sunday school teacher. They might have been friends of your parents. And so they showed you how to deal with a lot of stuff.
That's true.
So one thing, people always say to me, I'm worried about my kid, especially my son, and what should I do? And there are a couple things. So the first thing I always say is make him get a job. And I bet your parents did that too.
Oh, they did. My first one was at a Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
I was terrible at it.
I can only imagine.
But I learned a lot.
Pepperoni? That's not good for you. Yeah, I'm not going to put that on your pizza. But my first was plucking chickens, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But first, get a job. I don't care if it's babysitting. I don't care if it's mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Show up.
Make them get a job.
Yes.
The second thing I always say to them is, and goes back to the leader conversation, you can change or treat or make your child a victim or a leader. I don't think you can be both.
You just took my mind into a new place. Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't mean victim like young people have been victimized. I'm not saying they're not.
Certainly.
But how do you help them not be a victim? The whole concept of bullying, for example, I find it interesting. I'm sure I was bullied, and I may have bullied others too. But I guess we spend a lot of time talking about that and not enough time helping younger people know how to be leading through the bullying. And that is crucial. The other thing I'll say, the third thing about that I think is very important, is I don't care if you're a mom or a dad or a parent or uncle, grandparent. If you're a next door neighbor, if you're somebody who consistently sees the same clerk at your Food Lion, get to know that kid or young adult, because you'll never know the significance of having an adult look you in the eye and express some compassion and care for you. And so my suggestion, and these kids have been traumatized, is to help them excel as leaders, however that looks. Of course, this awful, awful flooding that occurred in Texas. And I'm kind of obsessed with it because I have grandchildren about the age of the children.
It's just unbearable.
It's unbearable. But one of the things that has really struck me is that leaders are not my age necessarily, or your age, or they're not the 25-year-old excelling MBA person. They are 8-year-old girls who help their cabin mates escape from tragedy or a horrible situation. So don't think your kid and I don't like using the word kid, but it applies here. Don't think your kid is too young to be a leader. That's just simply not true.
Yes.
And so help your child learn that they have great skills within them that they can use to help others. And that's really, to me, back to the partnership.
Great. I love it. Just so much to think about. And I'm really excited about this next phase in your Jan's leadership journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I formed a company, just a
Yeah.
little thing for my consulting business, and it's called Growth and Journey.
Growth and Journey. Tell me how about coming to the name. How was that easy, or did it take a while?
No, it didn't take a while, but I think it comes out of my deep experience with failure and with success. I always use this example, somebody that I figured out at one of my lower points in life. This low point, I broke my leg, metaphorically. Let's just say that. And I have a choice. I can limp the rest of my life and not do physical therapy and stay home and not do the right thing. Or I can start rebuilding that leg. And so for me, the next steps will be in my growth and journey is to think about those new adventures I might have. Your leg will never be the same again. I think that's a really important thing for people to acknowledge. But you can still use your leg. You can still walk. You still have your leg. It's just a little different than it was before. So growth, to me, comes first, and then journey. Because if we just focus on the journey, this is going to sound dorky maybe to others, but if we just focus on the journey, we say, oh, my life's so hard. Oh, my life's so hard. Oh, my gosh, I got bullied. Or my mom made me go to community college, and I didn't get to join the sorority I wanted to or something. Or I didn't have enough to eat even.
Right.
You become obsessed with the failures and accomplishments. But if you start with growth, and you're going to grow through the journey, however hard that is, however many times you break that leg, if you're going to grow through the journey, that's the more important thing of the two.
Okay. I guess I would say don't spend too much time on those closets. But you may have a closet innovation that comes out of it.
I might.
Right?
Yeah. I've been noodling on it. I've been thinking about it.
I love it. And I'm really excited as you continue. I'm going to have you back, and we're going to continue this conversation.
Oh, I would love to, yeah.
Because I think we've got a lot on our minds about the world around us and things that are happening, as well as the journey, the growth and journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we wind our time together down, is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners of the Chamber of Commerce Leader to Leader podcast?
Yeah, there is one thing, and that is that organizations, and I'm going to put a pitch in for the Chamber, organizations like the Chamber, which is kind of a service club and kind of a commerce club, are truly important. And you must, no matter how shy and introverted you are, and I'm very much an introvert, not shy, but I'm an introvert, you must become part of something. And the Chamber, with its reasonable membership rates and all the activities, like a Rotary Club or like a Lions Club, join it, because it's only when you get out of your own experiences, your own head, if you would, that you begin to realize how much others have to give and how much you have to give to others.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for all you've done through Germanna Community College and our community, and all you'll continue to do.
Thank you, Susan.
Yes, it's a pleasure to know you and to continue to know you. I'm excited. All right.
And I'm still a member of the Chamber.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a level of membership when folks retire that are involved at an executive level called Emeritus. It can only be achieved through working with me, the president of the chamber. And right now, that is what Janet is doing with us. So she will continue as an active participant in so many of the things we do. So I'm delighted for that too. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad we added that a few years back.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Oh, and thanks to our listeners for spending time with us today. Again, our guest today has been Dr. Janet Gullickson, recently retired as the president of Germanna Community College here in the Fredericksburg, Virginia region. I'm your host, Susan Spears, and I look forward to seeing you when we have our next episode with another terrific community leader from the Fredericksburg region. Thanks. See you next time.